Hey everybody, this is Rustin back here on Metalholic Radio with me, Giancarlo Floridia. Did I even pronounce that correctly?
You nailed it, man. Most people don't. You did really good.
Awesome. Giancarlo Floridia of Faithsedge. How you been doing, brother?
Excellent. Both names are complicated. You notice that?
Hey, nothing wrong with that. The great thing is because you do music, it's got a very melodic flow to it, you know?
Yeah, it's got good style. I like it.
So a whole lot of great stuff going on in your world right now. Let's talk about your baby first, though. What's going on with Faithsedge? I understand there's a second album you're working on, concept album. You're even already writing stuff for the third album.
Yes. So, I should be going back in to do all my guitars either next weekend or hopefully the weekend after. All the drums, all the bass are done. I have a few lyric touches from hearing it back. I'm like, I need to fix a few spots, but yeah. Should be out by the end of this year. It's a concept record. It's basically it's like I lost everything at one point in my life, and it's about regaining it, some of the things I went through to put myself there, and then you find out something interesting at the end. It's kind of like about manipulation and songwriting. It's very interesting. So I don't want to give it all away. But once it comes out, I'll get into detail on what it's got a storyline. It's really cool. It's the best thing I've ever done. I feel.
Well, certainly sounds like it's your most personal stuff to date.
It is because the reason why I came up with the idea is because everybody kept telling me on the first record, like, "There's more. What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say?" I mean, that was the most frequent question I got was that, and then how high do you sing? So I didn't write an album about how high I could sing. So I figured I'd write a record kind of like a response to what people were asking. So I came up with the title, The Answer of Insanity for now. It's like my response isn't as bright as people thought it would be. And you'll hear that on the album. I mean, it's pretty vicious, actually, compared to the first record. But it's still really melodic. It was really difficult to put that many hooks in music that's more of like a Megadeth or Metallica or Anthrax style of record where there were hints of that on the first album, but not fully like this record. On the third one, I might pull it back just a little because this one's pretty over the top.
So this one's infinitely a heavier album, then.
Oh, it's almost like progressive thrash metal with melodic vocals. Yeah, it's different. It's a lot different than the first record. I mean, you can tell once I start singing it's me, but it's like the first album we did a song called "World Keeps Falling Down," which is really heavy. It's like that, like almost every song. I think we got 4 melodic songs. The rest is just like an attack. It's great.
Excellent. So when do you expect that people will have that in their ears?
By the end of the year. So, we have to arrange some record company stuff that I need to fix. So.
And now who is working with you on this one?
Yeah, it's the same lineup as the first album. So Alex DeRosso, shred master from Italy. He played in Dokken. Fabrizio is still producing bass with Steve Vai and Steve Lukather, and then Tony, who did drums. It's the same lineup, but we added Eric Rainio on keyboards. He's like really well known in the melodic scene. He's done great stuff. He did the new Trickster. He did Fergie with Toto, and he's really well known as like the go-to guy. And I've become really good friends with him. I mean, a fan of his work, but he added a really nice touch to some of the stuff we've done, like progressive wise. It's he's amazing, and he's just a good friend. So he's with us now too. So
nice. And not to jump too far ahead, but since you alluded to it, you said the first album, was very melodic. The second album's going to be a lot heavier, and you said the third one you feel like you're probably going to rein it back in a little bit. And I've always sort of felt it's sort of like that sports analogy, the third year thing. By the time you get to the third album, that's usually where you really set the signature for who you are as a band. Do you think that's going to be true of the third album?
Yeah, I think I'm onto something. I think I need to blend the first two because a lot of bands go, "Oh, this album's heavier." I really don't care. I care about coming up with a trademark sound. I think my voice is really trademark. When you hear it, it's like, "Oh, it's Giancarlo singing." So that's cool. I know what I'm doing as a vocalist, but as a writer, I feel like if I take these first 2 albums and put them together, I think we're going to be onto something really good. Because the thing is difficult. It's like I want to be marketable in terms of melody. I don't want to. It's funny because so many people say, "Oh, we're going to be heavier." I don't want to be much heavier. I want to keep melody. I want to be kind of like more up tempo and aggressive. So I think I'm going to pull it back a step. That's how intense this record is. I'm kind of shocked when I heard some of the cuts back. I was just like, I wrote this, but it needed to be that way because there's a lot of stuff I need to get out of myself. So, but the next one, it'll be like, I already got 2 songs I'm working on where it's like, you can just tell I think I have found my niche as a writer, finally.
As a singer, because like you said, you do have a trademark voice, were there 1 or 2, I mean, I'm sure there's tons of influences you had, but were there 1 or 2 singers coming up that you maybe tried to emulate a little bit to sort of develop your style?
It's weird because, like, nobody can quite put their finger on who it is that I sound like. Like, people go, oh, that's an AC/DC knockoff or whoever. With me, you can't. So, I mean, I can name probably, like, a few guys. I mean, my main vocal influence is actually like Motown, like the Temptations.
Oh, nice.
Because they covered like highs, lows, mids, everything. They did it. So I listened to a lot of that for at least passion. There was a lot of passion in that singing style if you listen back to it, like David Ruffin. See, most metal singers wouldn't say, I'm into David Ruffin, but I am. I'm into Paul Williams and all that. So I mixed that kind of like heart sound and like a 70s sound, which is like Joe Lynn Turner type thing, and then like Halford, Tony Harnell, Michael Sweet. Wow, a little bit of Paul Stanley back in the 80s. I really like what he was doing then in the early 90s. I like a singer from a band called X Japan. His name's Toshi. He's really good. He's got like a real high register. I mean, the list goes on and on with some of these guys that are just Freddie Mercury, you know, and stuff like that. But there's a few guys, that I really like. So it's kind of hard to put me like as 2 guys. I mean, if I have to compare myself, I'd say I'm a cross between like, I guess like Tony Harnell and Joe Lynn Turner. I would say that. A few people have mentioned Joe Lynn Turner, like some critics. More people have actually mentioned Halford or Sebastian Bach. I sound a little bit like too. It's weird when people say, you remind me of such and such, and they're not even in my top 10 influences. So,
right. Well, and that's the thing. It's not about who you sound like so much as who influenced what you tried to do with your voice, because your voice is always going to be, unless you try specifically to sound like somebody else, to be distinctly you. And hopefully the goal is someday somebody's going to say, you sound just like Giancarlo Floridia, man. You know?
Oh yeah, you know, that would be funny. I'm actually, with 2 more mentions I'm really into. I'm actually into Richard Marx and Bryan Adams a lot too. They have a very distinct tone.
Right.
And I'm trying to capture that, you know. And I think a lot of people are onto that, where it's like, oh, he's got his own thing. Like when we go in the studio, Fabrizio's like, dude, you already got your thing. Go ahead and just book it out. It ain't like we have to figure out what are we going to go for with your voice. It's like once I start going, it's me. Yeah, I think people are already getting that. I mean, that's what kind of happened with that Liberty and Justice album. I mean, it was like I'm on there with all these great singers that I grew up as a kid listening to. And I knew once I got on there, I had something distinct, because to get on that album, you had to be really good. So, you know, I think I'm onto something, and people have been very accepting towards me as one of the new younger guys that's coming in. If not one of the only guys that's coming into the scene that's really doing some damage vocally. So I'm proud of that.
Well, and thank you for the nice segue, because that's what I wanted to talk about next is, you know, Liberty and Justice. It's like a lot of people have heard the name out there. They're really not quite sure what it is. But the Liberty and Justice Project, if whatever you want to call it, just released the Cigar Chronicles 1 and 2. One side of it, cover songs by some of our favorite artists, singers, and whatnot. And the other side, original material. You were involved in that. And we're going to talk about this a little bit later. Another great singer, Jani Lane, did his last song on that, and we're going to talk about that as well. But let's talk about, can you explain to people what Liberty and Justice is, and then your involvement in the Cigar Chronicles project?
Yeah, it's ran by Justin Murr. He's like the godfather of the operation. Of course, it has to be Italian reference, right? He's like the main guy. He puts together the songs, and he basically is just really into this style of music. And I found out about them before I got my record deal and contacted him before I got signed. And I'm like, I'm going to be on one of your albums. I'm going to do this, da, da, da. He's like, okay, yeah, sure. He's like, who are you? And then once the Faithsedge album came out and got good reviews, he was like, hey. So basically he runs the operation, and he gets really all-star guys, not just singers, but I mean some of the guitar players on there. And everybody, I mean, everybody's on there, from George Lynch to Mark Kendall to, you know, just there's so many guys, just so much talent on that record. And the original side just blows my mind. I mean, it's his best work. But basically he writes it, and then he brought in J.K. Northup, who's a really nice guy. He worked with, I think he was in King Cobra. Mm-hmm. He's a really cool guy, really cool friend to me at this point. And I got involved. I actually sang another song first. I actually did Under Construction with Eric Dover from Slash's Snake Pit, and we changed it. So I did backgrounds on that. So I'm actually on 2 songs. I'm on Under Construction, and then I'm on Broken Bones, which is more like I just went in and did it easy. Didn't do anything too fancy. It's like just a hard rock song. Didn't show off too much, no high notes, and it came out really cool. It's really straight ahead, and it's, right next to Jani's final song before he passed. So it's been cool. I mean, it's nice to be able to be next to Jani's final song before his passing, because it's such a great song. I mean, to me, it's the best song Liberty and Justice has ever done. It's so over the top, and it's so real. So it's an honor to kind of be right next to that song.
Well, tell us about your connection to Jani Lane, because you were a friend of his, and you're also doing the Jani Lane Tribute Memorial Show this August at Ripper Owens Tap House in Ohio.
I met Jani when I was 18. I got in the music industry very young, right out of high school. Started working with all these rock stars and stuff. And Jani, out of the bunch, was the guy who really, we just got along. I'd go to all his shows when he was playing here in Orange County. I was a kid. I mean, I was like just out of high school. I used to like Jani a lot when I was a kid. Like, I liked Uncle Tom's Cabin. Dog Eat Dog is like an essential album for me.
That's my favorite Warrant album, and it's like everybody thought once that one came out, that was sort of the end of the band. I'm like, that is their edgiest and best album.
It's the pinnacle of what he ever did.
Right.
It is, as a writer, you strive to achieve something like that, and he really nailed it on that record. I think he knew that, and it just wasn't as marketable. I mean, I'm doing the same thing right now with my record, where I'm jumping from something a little bit more safe to something over the top. And sometimes as a writer, you need to do what's best for you. And I think with Jani, Uncle Tom, if you listen to Cherry Pie, if you listen to Uncle Tom's Cabin, if you listen to Mr. Rainmaker, Song and Dance Man, those are the songs that I think really nailed that album. Where Cherry Pie, I think if you look around and do some internet research, how much it bothered him doing something a little bit more corporate. I think Jani was such a nice guy that being super famous was not uncomfortable for him, but he was a really nice guy. It was hard to explain. It was just, he was different than any of the other guys I knew. I mean, I'd go to the shows, and I remember one night we're standing in the door, and all these girls are there. Oh, and then I walk in, I'm just standing there waiting, and he's like, oh, he goes right past him. Hey, bro, and things like my friend was at a show in Georgia, and he said he knew me, and Jani got him in for free. And this was in 99, so the whole camera thing wasn't on where you could bring him in the show. So bootlegging shows wasn't really cool. But Jani's like, go ahead, we'll let you set up your camera. I mean, my friend's like, dude, man, he really hooked me up. And Jani would call me on the phone, very positive, very uplifting. I mean, I can't say enough nice things during that period. I mean, I only hung out with him majorly for about a year and a half. And I just kind of fell out of contact with him when I had my own personal problems. I moved away and got out of the music business. But that whole year when I was hanging out with him all the time really taught me more about how I want to treat other musicians. And because he really, a lot of people in the business when I was younger were out to get me. I won't name names, but they were very negative and destructive towards my future in the music business, where Jani was just the total opposite. And it's strange because he, out of all the guys I work with, I think he had the most success with like double platinum records.
Right.
But he was the most down to earth and the most cool out of all of them. I was like, oh man, his ego is going to be ridiculous. It was totally the opposite. So, you know, anytime I have a chance to jump on something like this, I mean, I was the guy who helped out with getting his final song. If you look up Sin, the Liberty and Justice song, right before he passed, his last song he ever did, I ended up helping out with the artwork. Justin posted something on Facebook, and we did it at my college. So I made that happen in record time. And I remember sitting there seeing my friend put together the artwork and thinking, I can't believe I'm doing this right now. I can't believe Jani's gone. But with anything that's involved with Jani, I really love to get involved with, to show a lot of people only see that one side of the personal issues that he was going through. But when I was younger, anything he had going on, he was not very like proud of it. He wasn't like stumbling on me, and you know, it was very private. If anything, it was kind of not too proud of that. And you know, he was just a great guy. I can't say enough great things about him. I'm just honored to be doing this show. I contacted them when I saw they had it going on. It was Jani's Facebook, and his like best friends run it, and I contacted them. I showed them what I can do, and they were so impressed. They're like, just headline the whole thing. I mean, they're talking about getting some really big acts and this and that, but they were so impressed that we're like, you got this. So it's gonna be awesome. I know some of his schoolmates, because that's his hometown, are gonna be there, and possibly some of his family. So it's a lot of pressure to really nail this. But I'm going to be covering all sorts of stuff. I'm going to be doing Dog Eat Dog is actually the main one. And I'm playing it on acoustic, so I'm having to break it down.
Oh,
it's
wow.
a different album. You know, Hole in My Wall on acoustic is different, you know, but I'm going to make it happen. I'm doing like some stuff up like Ultraphobic. I'm doing some of Cherry Pie. I won't be playing the song Cherry Pie. I'm only doing one song off the first album, believe it or not. The rest is more like rare stuff that I felt that would really show you what a great songwriter he was. See, I can go on all day about him. He was great.
Are you doing anything from his Jabberwocky period that never really saw the light of day?
Some people are emailing me with these rare songs, just like, hey, try this one. One that keeps coming up, I don't know if it's on that album. It's called Blue something, or I don't know. People keep saying it. I'm going to have to check it out.
Private Blue World?
That one. People keep telling me to do that one, so I'm going to check that out. I think I'm going to do A Letter to a Friend off Belly to Belly. That was a great song, too.
Nice.
Yeah,
so it's definitely going to be an eclectic mix of his stuff. It's not just going to be all the stuff everybody remembers from radio.
Yeah, I'm trying to get away from that. I mean, I'm doing like Thin Disguise and like Chameleon off Ultraphobic. I'm doing stuff that's doing Andy Warhol Was Right.
I love that song.
Oh my God, that's yeah. Don't even get me started, man. Yeah, it's gonna be a very cool set. I approached it like, what would Jani want to do? Like, I think in the end he wanted to be known for his songs, and when you play them on acoustic like this, like Ultraphobic, some of the guitars were like more alternative sounding, but when you strip them down to chord structure and his voice and his lyrics, it is just phenomenal.
Well, and that's the key to any great song, but especially with a rock song, is if you can strip away the big guitars and all that stuff and take it back to just an acoustic guitar and a voice. If it still sounds good, then you know you've written a great song. If you strip it back and there's nothing there, you don't have much of a song to begin with.
Oh, yeah. That's how you test your songs. I do that, too. I'll usually start writing on an acoustic to see if it holds up.
So that sort of leads us to the question then, whether as a bonus track or something else, have you thought of recording one or two of his songs for, to throw on a Faithsedge album? I mean, you're a good friend, you're a huge fan, obviously, you know the depth of his work, and obviously you've got the voice to pull it off, so.
Thanks. Thank you. I really would like to see, and I've talked to the people at Jani's side about it, a whole record tribute to him.
Oh, wow.
That's what I'd like to see at the end of the day. I would like to do something like what Justin does with Liberty and Justice, where you get all these guest musicians and one CD with just songs that are just really phenomenal. I would love to do that. unfortunately, things are an issue of money.
Right.
Who's got it? I know we can get a deal with it, but it would have to be an issue where somebody had the funds to finance it. Because I love volunteering my time or whatever, but this is a business, and unfortunately, that's been one of the biggest downfalls of doing this. It's like some people don't want to get involved unless there's money involved.
Right.
And I think it's really sad. I wish we can find somebody that would have some financial backing to where we can do this and keep his memory alive more. But time will tell. You never know. Things happen all the time. But that would, I think, be an even better idea. As far as Faithsedge is concerned, I don't know if I'd do something like that. You never know. But I would love to be involved with a whole record or something big.
Nice. So, and what is, from the tribute that you're doing for Jani Lane, what is the money going to that's raised from this? What is the cause, if you will?
If you look around online, some pictures of him, he was involved with something called Music Cares.
Mm-hmm.
They had already had it set up, so I just joined in when it was already arranged. But I did my research, and he's done a lot of events for them. I believe they help with different things with when musicians are having troubles with how do you put it, like sobriety, is that how you say it?
Right.
I don't party much, so with things like that. And he was very involved with them. You can definitely look it up online. You'll see pictures where he's done events for them and things like that. So everything is going to that. This is not anything to do with us. This is about Jani's music and keeping his memory alive and doing something nice for, at one time, something he believed in very much. So, yeah.
That's totally cool that you're doing that. So sometime this year we're going to have the new Faithsedge album. We've got the Jani Lane thing coming up. Of course, you're also doing Skullfest, I think, in New England. Jack Russell will be out there. Of course, Kip Winger, Hurricane. At least one of the guys from Firehouse, Bill Leverty, will be there.
Yeah. Few surprises coming up. Oni Logan from Lynch Mob just got added. Vicious Rumors just got added on our day.
I just talked to Jeff last week. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. He'll be there. There's one more surprise headliner for our day. I can't see it yet. It should be up in a week, but it should be pretty hot, if you know what I'm saying.
Sweet.
It's going to be awesome.
So is there anything else going on that we need to know about?
I'm snapping my mouth. Let's see. That's it. I'm just really trying to focus on getting the next 2 albums out, getting a really good record company that's going to get behind me more and really take it to where I think it needs to be. I think there needs to be a new artist that comes out and does this. It's a lot of work singing this way. It takes a lot of dedication. And I think with my voice, my register, and my range, and how I can harmonize, I think I can do this, and I just need to keep pushing. It's just breaking right through. I'm getting all these little tastes of what it can be. I just need it to hit the next level, and there's only one way to do that, I think, is to have the best songs possible. I already have the musicians with these guys. They're phenomenal. I mean, they're the best. And I just need to get more people hearing it, because once people are hearing it, they're really liking us. So I'm just going to keep pushing forward.
Awesome. What are you into outside of music and family?
Losing the rest of my gut. I'm trying to get into physical fitness, like jogging and all that good stuff. I was heavier when I was a kid, so I want to make sure I have 2 kids now, and they're getting older, even though I'm still young. My daughter's like half my age. So I had her in high school, so I'm looking at them now. I'm like, I better stay alive. So I'm getting into eating better, and I've lost a lot of friends over the past few years. So I'm trying to eat right, jog. I'm really not into much other than really singing and songwriting and just spending time with my kids. I like going to Universal Studios and stuff. I'm a very boring rocker. Life is interesting. You just go with it. So to me, at the end of the day, I just like doing the simple things, like going for a jog. I like going to like Japanese markets and stuff. They have them out here in California. Right. The stupid stuff, just going to the mall. I mean, I don't know. I'm strange.
All right. So last question, just for fun before we get out of here, the pointless question of the week. If you could play a character or yourself on any television show or series, what would it be?
I would be, that's easy. That's a good question. That's one of the best questions anybody's asked me. Remember Quantum Leap?
Yes.
That would be amazing to go in that time machine thing. Like, you know, he switched different periods of time, and he had these goals he had to achieve to get to the next period. Kind of reminds me of my life. It's like I have these goals and different situations I'm put in. I'm always trying to get to the next thing. So definitely I'd be the guy in Quantum Leap.
Nice. That's a great answer. That's pretty cool. So is there one, because everybody always asks that, if you could go back in time, where would you go back to? What age would you go back to?
That's easy. You know, I'm a big Back to the Future fan. If you look at my Facebook, I've got like, actually, you know what's going to be really funny? A quick mention about going back in time is we have our new studio report for the band that'll be out in about a month. When I'm done doing vocals, we'll put it together and get it out to all the websites. We actually, me and my daughter, go to Marty McFly's house for the intro, and we do the whole scene. You know, you got to come back with me. The house looks exactly the same color, everything. So we did a skit, and we call it Back to Fabrizio's, meaning my producer. Like, you got to come back to Fabrizio's. Anyways, you got to catch that in the studio report. People are going to love it. I would go back to maybe like 91, 92, like right before everything changed in the world, when I was like 10 years old, and like everything was cool, and the music wasn't quite changed. You had a lot of heavy. It was like when Metallica was kind of breaking. So like the bands from the 80s were changing their sound to get a little bit tougher. Like right before the whole alternative scene come in. It'd be cool to go back to like 89 to mid 92. I would love it. Even if it's just for a day, to go back and have a good time.
I think if I went back to that time, I'd probably do something foolish like take out Kurt Cobain before he helped destroy music. So,
but you know what? With Kurt Cobain, though, as much as I don't sound like a musician that's into alternative scene, I hate to say it, I think it was very necessary, because what was also happening was you had like hair metal that was kind of getting shitty too. You had like, I'm not going to mention too many names, but I have no problem mentioning names like Pretty Boy Floyd. It's like, come on, guys. It was getting based upon, I remember looking in the magazines, I'd be like, who's this? Oh, they got long hair, so they have a record deal. Oh, who's this? They have long hair, so they have a record deal. Oh, they look like this, so they have a record deal. It was getting worse and worse and worse and worse. So you had your top bands that were really good, and then you just had all these shit bands that were making a bad name and still hurt me. I mean, some of this stuff hurts me. Like, reviewers will be like, they have an 80s feel. And it's like, doesn't mean we can't play. I mean, some of the hair metal really hurt some of it. Some of it was really good. Some of it I don't like. I mean, so I'm into like the progressive side, or it's almost like any style of music for me. I think there's alternative bands that did really good with it. Then I thought there was like the low grade. Hair metal, there was really good. Then there was like the low grade. Any style of music, I dig it if you're doing the best you can do. It's when you're trying cheap shots and you don't want to practice, I don't like it. So, you know, it kind of had to happen it's just comparing the alternative scene to now, how bad it is. I don't mind the alternative scene as much, because right now we're in a complete digital age where nothing's real.
True. And
we have no new artists. I mean, I'm dying to find, that do this stuff. I mean, and it's hard, because I went back to, college, and I'm sitting there in a university, and all we did, nobody like picked up a guitar. It's like, we're going to program everything. I'm just like, this is really bad.
Yeah, it's taken away from it. And it's there. We're starting to get some bands who are starting to write good material again and bringing back what was great about the 70s and 80s, and it's so good to hear. Hailstorm's one that immediately comes to mind for me, but there's a lot of new bands like that are doing that sort of thing, and that's phenomenal. But it's a cyclical thing. It's anytime you have something, whether it was the hair metal of the 80s or the grunge and alternative of the 90s, yeah, you have those groups that are really good, really powerful and strong that made the scene. And then every A&R dipshit went out there and signed anything that remotely stank of whatever they thought might bring in money, which then diluted the whole scene and made everybody want something new again.
Yeah, exactly. So. And you're right about some of that stuff coming out. It's actually a lot of the European people that are really passionate about it. It's harder in the States, but if you look at like Frontiers' roster,
Right.
phenomenal. There's some other ones, there's different labels, SPV, AFM, that are putting out stuff that's more overseas. I mean, I go to the Japanese bookstore. If you look at the Burn magazine, it's completely different than what's going on here. So there's a lot of cool stuff coming out in the European market. That's what I'm trying to capitalize on too. Our label Scarlet is in Europe. They're in Italy, and the scene there is just so cool. I mean, the UK and it's different. I mean, my friend Eric, our keyboardist, was on tour, and he's in the and he sends me a picture from on his tour, and he's like, "Look, Faithsedge album in the store. Click. It's on my Facebook." I'm like, "Wow, so different over there."
It truly is. So, and they never gave up on rock and roll like we did in some sense in the 90s when the whole grunge thing happened. But so Giancarlo Floridia of Faithsedge, the new album will be out sometime later this year. We're looking forward to that. Keep an eye on the website, faithsedgemusic.com, and of course on Facebook and everything else as well. Social media, the way of rock and roll these days. We're going to head out with Giancarlo Floridia singing. This is from the Liberty and Justice Cigar Chronicles album. This is Broken Bones, Metalholic Radio. Crank it up.